I always thought we had marriage figured out. I remember the day we exchanged vows, how I stared into your eyes and believed wholeheartedly that you were mine forever. I was 32 then you were 30. We'd built something steady, a modest but cozy home, weekend rituals that felt sacred, Sunday pancakes, Wednesday pizza nights, lazy Saturday mornings on the couch watching old movies. Nothing flashy, nothing grandiose, but ours. Safe. Predictable. I never imagined it could rupture. I started noticing small shifts about 6 months ago. You'd come home late occasionally, shrug off a traffic jam excuse with a forced smile. Your phone, you insisted, be face down, even when I was across the room. One evening I caught you in the bathroom texting. Your eyes darted so fast I practically thought you were playing some secret sniper-level spy game. I remember my heart pounding, confusion settling in. I tried to tell myself I was overthinking. Maybe you were planning a surprise for our anniversary, or talking to a friend in need. I wanted to believe it. Then the messages began. Not overt, but coded. I didn't read them at first. I thought trust meant not snooping. But I always kept my phone unlocked. It felt fair. We'd never had secrets. Oblivious in retrospect. There was one late night. You slipped off to bed while I stayed up finishing some work emails. I saw your phone glitch and ping. Bone-deep curiosity overwhelmed me. I scrolled, saw her name, a series of messages about missing kisses, about needing him, about meeting just one more time. Free-floating dread settled like acid in my stomach. She went by first name, playful emojis. I scrolled more and saw a photo, one of your selfies. I think you sent it by accident, but she had replied with something intimate, flirtatious, but not obscene. Yet everything stung. I confronted you the next day, voice shaky, eyes rimmed with tears. I asked who she was. You froze. You swallowed. You gave me an answer that fractured me. She's someone from work. I was just talking and you looked so small. But something in your body language told me it wasn't just conversation. I asked if you cheated. You denied. You said you were sorry if you made me feel insecure, but you insisted you hadn't crossed any line. My chest clenched. I wanted to believe you. I wanted desperately to believe in us. But the unease didn't vanish. It deepened. Over the next weeks I oscillated between hope and suspicion. I watched you closely. I tracked patterns, bathroom breaks, pocket calls, sudden long showers. I cataloged it all in my head like evidence, but I stopped short of emotionally confronting you again. It asked in passing, how was your day? You'd sigh and say, fine. It wasn't enough anymore. Then came the weekend that broke me. You said you were meeting an old college friend for coffee. A girlfriend, you said. She lives east side. You'd be back by lunch. I believed you. Felt foolish for still doing so. At noon you weren't back. Phone silent. By 2 you texted. Running late, sorry. By 4, it worked myself into panic. At 5, I drove to the cafe address you gave, mostly as a final gesture of trust, reluctantly telling myself maybe she made you stay. On arrival, the cafe was empty. No staff. The doors locked. I felt the first wave of dread, the kind that makes your breath stumble. I stared at the building and felt the floor drop. I called you. No answer. My phone belonged to me and to you, but the call went straight to voicemail. At that moment, everything inside me disintegrated. I returned home at 6. You were there sitting at the kitchen table, coffee cup in hand, calm. You looked at me and gave a gentle, startled smile, though I'd just seen you ordering beans from the bag in the kitchen. I poured you a glass of water. You didn't ask where I'd been. I couldn't speak. My voice wouldn't come. I stared at you. Finally, you sighed and said quietly, we need to talk. It felt surreal. You used almost the exact phrase I'd long dreaded. You confessed. Tearful sentences tumbled out. Yes, she was more than a friend. It started innocently, a shared project at work. Lunches to finalize details. Emotional exhaustion on your end. You said you felt valued in a way that stopped complimenting. Emotional validation from someone else. Weakness, guilt. You said it lasted 3 months, for meetings. Enough to cause pain, but you insisted you never slept with her. That detail you thought would soften the blow only made it worse. I remember the sickening collapse in my body. Hot tears pressing behind my eyes. I nodded dumbly. I asked how many times. Dozens, you whispered. I wish time would freeze. I asked whether she'd become primary. You looked away. Could have been, you said. That broke me more. In the following days, we sat through what felt like interrogations. We went to therapy where I asked, was it physical? Emotional? Why couldn't you come to me first? You wept. We'd curse at each other late at night in empty rooms. I called your betrayal a murder of trust, of our shared intimacy. You apologized more times than I could tally. I felt my love fighting to survive, but suspecting the ghost of something else hovered between us. I started sleeping on the couch. It was quieter there, simpler. Bathrooms were tense. We were living parallel lives under the same roof. I denied dinner. You left your meals on the table. We couldn't look at each other without years of love flickering with regret. Still, I didn't leave. I stayed. Part of me believed love was bigger than pain. Part of me hoped I could rebuild something resilient. We kept going to therapy. The counselor guided us, mapping emotional triggers, rebuilding transparency. You agreed to share your phone open, no passwords, daily check-ins, honesty in every detail. I tried to accept it, but these felt like bargaining chips, not acts of true accountability. I experienced strange illusions. Glimpses of you in everyday moments, felt poisonous, laughing at the dinner table like nothing changed. I'd close my eyes and see her face, her lips pressed to yours in some photo you'd sent. My stomach churned, jealousy poisoning my mind. I would cry in the shower. Sometimes I'd de-punch a pillow until my knuckles bruised. But in rare moments, something tender flickered. You'd reach for my hand in therapy. You'd apologize again quietly in passing. You'd ask how I slept. You'd not hide your phone as I passed by. You tried to reintroduce small rituals, shared coffee in the morning, quiet drives, reading out loud on Sundays. I remembered why I fell in love. But the wound felt like it had been hollowed out, some part of us still missing. We made rules, no contact with her, clear boundaries at work, consistent check-ins. I demanded honesty even in discomfort, about feelings, about missed messages, about desire. I looked inward too, my own emotional withdrawal, the complacency we fell into, how we neglected romance. I realized betrayal doesn't happen in a vacuum, it grows where love is undernourished. After 2 months, things felt less volatile, but fragile. I still flinch at your laugh, at the thought of your closeness with someone else. Trust is not binary, it must be earned again, daily. I still dream of finding her phone, of confrontation, but also of letting go. I still ache when you go out just with friends. Yet, sometimes, I choose to stay open to possibility. Today, I'm writing this because I want to understand. Marriage isn't a movie, it's hard, messy. Betrayal doesn't need drama to hurt. Even without sex, emotional infidelity ruptured us. I don't have answers yet. I don't know if we'll survive. I don't know if love is enough. But I know I'm not the same man I was 6 months ago. I'm more wary, more wounded, but also more aware of love's fragility, of emotional hunger, of the danger of allowing familiarity to become indifference. If you ask me now what betrayal felt like, I'd say, it was discovery not of adultery, but of the fact that my wife's heart could drift. It made me question what else I had seen. It taught me that honesty is more than truth, it's presence, curiosity, gratitude. If there's one thing I regret most, it's letting our emotional life go dormant. I wish I'd noticed your distance sooner, asked better questions, offered more affection. Maybe that wouldn't have stopped it, but maybe it would have slowed it. Right now, love is a ledger of grievances and apologies. Trust is a construction, slow, brittle. I'm learning to set boundaries, to ask for my emotional needs. You're learning to be transparent, to rebuild and recommit. We've agreed we will not move in together again until we've co-built a vision. We've said we'll revisit separation if new boundaries are ever broken. I'm tired. I'm sad. I'm angry. But I'm also curious if my love has evolved. Love after betrayal isn't the same love, it's a revisited version with cracks. And maybe that's okay. Because cracks let the light in, even while they show how deep the damage went. I'm not sure if he'll ever forgive completely or if I should. I'm not sure if separation will come someday, or if we'll find a way to reshape our marriage into something more honest, more alive. In the end, I tell this not because I'm seeking pity, nor vindication, nor absolution. I tell it because betrayal changes you. It exposes how fragile connection is, how easily neglect becomes breach, how the heart can wander when left wanting. I tell it to remind myself and maybe someone reading this that love requires constant tending. And if you ignore the thinning thread of emotional intimacy, you might one day wake up and find it unraveled in someone else's words, someone else's arms, someone else's comfort. I don't know where we go next, but I know this story will continue either together, rebuilding, or apart, starting anew. And I hope that whoever's reading this, especially anyone who's been hurt, finds a reason to claim your emotional worth, to insist on transparency, to seek healing, to rebuild your life on values you deserve. Because betrayal isn't about sex, it's about the quiet surrender of your emotional contract. And if you remember to speak up before the drift begins, you might never fracture at all. It's strange how time warps when you're living in the aftermath of a betrayal. One day feels like a week. A month passes and you feel like you've only taken 2 breaths, one at the beginning, one right now still gasping, still unsure if your lungs are full or failing. People tell you to forgive, to move on, to start fresh, but they don't live in your bed. They don't see your wife's face every morning and wonder if today she'll look at you with love or with guilt. Or both. I started journaling because therapy wasn't enough. I needed a place to scream in silence, to say things I didn't dare say to you, or even aloud. Like how some nights I wish I'd never met you, not because I hate you, but because I can't bear how much I love you still. How I lie awake beside you and remember your infidelity like a slow echo, repeating, she wasn't me, she wasn't me, she wasn't me. I started noticing how you walk differently now, more careful, more composed, like you're afraid to misstep again. Or maybe afraid and watching, waiting to catch you. And you're right. I am. Not because I want to, but because I don't know how not to anymore. I've become suspicious by default. That's what betrayal does. It turns you from a lover into a detective. And the worst part, I didn't ask for that job. I wanted to be your partner, not your warden. We had a dinner party 3 weeks ago. Just close friends, nothing fancy. You wore the green dress, the one I bought you for your birthday last year. You looked beautiful, radiant even. And for a moment, as you poured wine and laughed at someone's joke, I forgot. I genuinely forgot everything. I saw you and thought, that's my wife. My chest ached with nostalgia for the version of us that existed before. The version that felt clean, whole. But then you caught my gaze from across the room, and your smile faltered. Just a flicker, just enough to remind us both. And just like that, the illusion snapped. We were back in reality, two people playing house with a crack in the foundation. Our friends don't know, or if they suspect, they're too polite to ask. We keep up appearances, smiles at brunch, inside jokes, a well-rehearsed performance of we're fine. But I see how your hands tremble when I reach for yours in public. I feel how your body hesitates just a second too long before leaning in for a kiss. We're both still acting. One night, a few days after that party, I asked you a question I'd been afraid to ask for months. If I hadn't found out, would you have ended it? You looked away. You didn't speak for a long time. Then you said something that both gutted me and, oddly, gave me peace. I don't know. Honesty. Ugly, brutal honesty. And somehow it felt better than the 1,000 apologies you'd given before. At least it was real. It meant you were trying to tell me the truth, even if it broke me. In therapy the next week, our counselor said something that stuck with me. Forgiveness isn't a finish line. It's a practice. I didn't understand it at first. I thought forgiveness was a switch you flip it on or you don't. But it's not. It's waking up every day and actively choosing not to let resentment lead. It doesn't mean the pain is gone. It means you're trying to live with it, to soften it, to make room beside it for love again. Some days, I can't choose forgiveness. I wake up angry. You breathe wrong and am back in that bathroom, reading those texts, feeling like the world just shifted sideways. Other days, I see the way you fold my laundry, the way you check my calendar to remind me of meetings, the way you still laugh at my terrible jokes, and I remember why I stayed. Not for convenience, not for fear, but because you've shown up. You've taken accountability. You didn't run. You didn't minimize. You let me rage. Let me cry. Let me doubt everything. You've endured it with patience I didn't think you had. And that means something. It doesn't erase what happened, but it plants seeds. Of maybe. Of someday. Of healing. Last week, you asked if I still love you. I didn't answer right away. Because the truth is, I do. But not the same way. Not the starry-eyed, naive love that trusts, without question. That version of love died. And maybe that's okay. Maybe what we're building now, this love forged in fire, shaped by scars, is more resilient, more real. Because now, when I say I love you, I'm also saying, I see your failure, and I still choose you. And when you say it back, I know you're saying, I broke you, and I'll spend as long as it takes helping you heal. That's not the love story I thought it'd live, but it's the one we're writing, one hard chapter at a time. We lasted another 2 months. That's the simplest way to say it, but those months weren't simple. They were stretched thin with effort, shared breakfasts with quiet glances, date nights that felt more like rehearsals than romance. You brought me little gifts, thoughtful ones. I thanked you every time. I even meant it. But the air between us changed. Or maybe I just started listening to it more carefully. I could hear the silence between your words. I could feel how forced our laughter had become. Even the way you touched me, it was careful, as if I were made of glass and you were afraid of shattering me further. That tenderness used to feel healing. But over time, it began to feel like guilt in disguise. We were walking on the beach one Sunday afternoon. You reached for my hand. I let you take it, but I noticed how unnatural it felt, like strangers pretending to be something they weren't anymore. We didn't talk much that day, just walked, let the wind do most of the talking. But in that quiet space, something settled inside me, a kind of clarity not cold or cruel, but deeply sad. It was the realization that we were trying to rebuild a home on ground still burning. The final conversation didn't come with a fight. No screaming, no doors slamming. It came on a Wednesday, just before dinner. You were chopping carrots. I was scrolling through old photos on my laptop, trying to find a receipt. I stumbled across an album from our trip to Lisbon 3 years ago. You were smiling at me in every photo like I hung the damn moon. I felt something inside me crumple. I walked into the kitchen, and you looked up. I could tell from your eyes you knew something was coming. I can't do it anymore, I said. Your hands stilled on the cutting board. Do what? This. Us. This. Trying. I don't think I'm healing. I think I'm enduring. And I don't want to live a life I have to survive. I want more than survival. You didn't cry right away. You just nodded. Slowly, as if you'd already had this conversation with yourself many times. You set the knife down and leaned against the counter, arms folded. Then, quietly, you said, I've been waiting for you to say that. It felt like someone had punched the breath from my lungs. I wasn't expecting that kind of honesty. Or maybe I was hoping for a fight. Something to tell me we weren't already drifting apart. You don't want to keep trying? I asked. I do, you said. But I think we're trying out of guilt now. And fear. And because we used to be something worth fighting for. Used to be, I repeated. That part hurt. But I couldn't deny it. The truth was we weren't in love anymore. Not in the way we used to be. We were in grief. Mourning what we'd had, what we lost, and what we kept pretending could come back. But some things, once broken, don't come back. Not fully. You can glue the vase, but you'll always see the cracks. And every time you look at it, you remember how it broke. We talked for hours that night. About logistics. About who would keep the apartment. About telling our families. But somewhere between the legalities and the sadness, we found a strange peace. You told me you'd always love me. I said the same. We meant it. But loving someone doesn't always mean staying. The next few weeks were a blur. We divided our things like diplomats in a ceasefire. I moved into a small rental 2 neighborhoods over. We shared a goodbye dinner, not romantic, not ceremonial, just real. I thank you for the years, the memories, even the mistakes. The night I moved out, I stood in our old bedroom, staring at the space where our bed used to be. You had already packed your clothes. There were echoes in the room. I remember touching the wall near the window right where we used to pin anniversary photos. My chest tightened, not out of regret but out of quiet sorrow, for everything we had and everything we lost. Now, it's been 6 weeks since I left. The first week, I woke up reaching for your side of the bed, only to remember you weren't there. The second week, I stopped checking your social media. By the third, I took off my ring. Not angrily, just quietly, placing it in the back of my drawer. A symbol of a chapter that ended. People have asked if I'm okay. I say yes, and mostly, it's true. I'm learning who I am outside of us. I'm rediscovering old hobbies. I'm eating late dinners, watching movies I used to skip. I started running again. Not away from anything, just forward. And you? You text me sometimes. Small things. A song you heard that reminded you of me. A memory. You always end it with, hope you're well. I answer, but less often now. Not to punish. Just to protect. I think we loved each other the best we could. I think you betrayed me not out of malice, but out of confusion, loneliness, maybe even desperation. I think I stayed not because I was weak, but because I believed in redemption. And I think we walked away not because we stopped loving each other, but because sometimes love isn't enough. Not when trust is gone. Not when the foundation is cracked. People say relationships end in fire or ice. Ours ended in silence, in stillness, in the mutual recognition that we couldn't carry the weight of what we'd done to each other and to ourselves. But I'm not bitter. Not anymore. I think I'll always miss you, in that quiet, nostalgic way you miss your childhood home. But I'm grateful, too, for the laughter, the lessons, the years, even the pain, because it taught me what I want, what I need, and what I deserve. And maybe, someday, when the wound is a scar, I'll look back on this story and remember not the betrayal, but the strength it took to walk away, the grace in letting go, and the courage in choosing peace over pieces.